Okay, good morning. Quite literally, good morning where I'm sitting. Pretty Arizona um, sunrise out here today. I actually didn't think I was going to get to record an episode because we're on a little mini vacation, me and the wife, with some family out here in Arizona at a beautiful spot. And I just didn't figure I'd have the time. But I wanted to kind of check out the sunrise one morning. And so I was like, maybe I can knock out a quick one and get something up. And wasn't sure what I was going to talk about because last week's clips talking about the ACM awards have been doing pretty well online. So shout out to you all for getting involved in those, even though most people that watch the actual podcast won't ever see this. But maybe I'll clip this one and put it out there. Thanks for watching my clips, but please go watch the whole podcast because that'd be great. Definitely some controversial quote unquote takes, but takes are takes, opinions are opinions. And you know the rest of the saying about opinions. Everybody's got one. No, today I just wanted to wasn't sure like I said, I wasn't sure what I was going to talk about. But then for a few days, I've been kind of thinking about the whole death of Kyle Busch at the age of 41. And I apologize for the nasally tone here. My allergies have kicked in. So the last couple of mornings I've been dealing with that. But I don't know, just wanted to get on here and kind of talk a little bit about mortality and kind of some of the thoughts I've had, like I said, ever since the Kyle Busch thing and the Kyle Busch news kind of happened. So I know exactly the direction we're going to get into today, but I say this every time. Not sure how long this one will be, but let's get into it. So the biggest thought, other than being a dad, being a younger dad, about the whole Kyle Busch thing was my daughter talks a lot about being scared that what if you leave and don't come back? And that's real hard to hear. And that's something that, I mean, yeah, you're right. It could happen. Our plane could crash. You get into a car accident. Yeah, you just never know. Something crazy might happen. And that's kind of the whole point. Like, you just never know. And I know that the stuff with Kyle Busch, it's kind of looking like maybe there was some sickness. So, but I don't feel like unless they're just not saying anything yet, or unless I've missed something, because there could be new information out by the time I'm talking about this or time this comes out. I don't necessarily think that they thought it was anything that could be the cause of death, And so you just never know when something might happen. And so that's kind of where I started. I was like, man, that would just be, not there's anything I could do about it, but I would just feel terrible for my kids. Because these days, a mom is just as important as a dad. And I think parents in general are the biggest reason why the next generation is going to be, super important to the world. Like, I feel like millennials now and our kids, we are kind of like the reset generation. It feels like we've lived through so much as millennials, and I'm not even an elder millennial. I'm kind of on the back end, 1992. So to live through the things that we've lived through as a world, as a country, it's like there's not a whole lot that can shake us at this point. We're the first generation to kind of grow up with computers in our house, cell phones in our hand, and also be very aware of what's going on in the world, even at a young age. September 11th. I mean, talk about a traumatic thing to be pulled out of school, seeing burning buildings and cars lined up at the gas station as a third, fourth grader, or whatever grade you were in at the time. Probably some of you are probably a lot older, but it's just parents are as important as it gets in general, but um, definitely lately. And I have a lot of conversations with, some of the family out here that we're talking to about parenting and the styles, and it's like, decisions we've made and how our decision making has changed even a short amount of time. We've only been parents for however many years, but when you have multiple kids and each kid is different, you kind of change the way you do things for each one. So a lot of conversations about that, but the thought of unexpectedly passing away and then not being able to raise them to be good people, because I think like that's the new barometer for a lot of parents. They're like, we just want to raise people who are not assholes that we want to hang out with, And I think that's kind of our take on everything. Is like, just don't be an asshole. Don't be rude. Just be a good person. If you got a problem, let's talk about it. Let's get through it. And sometimes we don't have to necessarily be friends. We can kind of move on and not have to worry about it. But I think my generation and we want to be friendly with everybody. And we're not stupid. We're the first generation that is, as a whole, probably more educated than any other generation before us. I don't know. That might be a hot take, but I just feel like our whole life we were told, all right, you graduate high school. In high school, you do college prep, and when you get to college, then you're getting ready for the next step. You get your degree, and then you get a job, and you're just kind of like. So we all had at least 4+ years, typically, of college, and so whether that we had good grades or not, or whatever, that's besides the point. But at least you tried to learn critical thinking, and you had to try to be a functioning member of society, and sometimes get on a discussion board. And so I just think that we're the generation that's not going to let shit fly, and we're also the generation that's like very, I guess, open-minded. I'm just trying to think of the word to put it, but we're just kind of like, we're very aware that our existence is short on this earth. We're very aware that what we do in that short existence matters for a long term, and especially even longer once you leave behind your kids. I always talk about a name is what you make it. So your name, your kids that you leave behind, and how they are directly goes back to, you know, your name and who you are and the legacy that you leave behind. So for Kyle Busch to be just gone, and the legacy he left behind was great, but he's still gone, and he's still gone at a young age, and he's still got kids left behind. So it's like, to put yourself in those shoes, it's just tough. It's just tough to think about, and you don't want to think about it, but sometimes it's good to, you know? And I think that ever since that, and then taking this trip, and just kind of everything that's happened to me since October, since I was let go from my job, it's been a learning experience. It's been a life learning experience of, just last night I had a conversation with my wife about how I can't keep trying to plan what's going to happen or overplan what I don't know. Meaning, you run these scenarios in your head and you're like, okay, well, if this happens, then we do A, B, and C. Okay, well, if this happens, then we'll do A, B. It's like, okay, but what if neither of those things happen? So no matter what you do, there's going to be something that you just have to face head on and just figure it out. And that's what I was telling her. I was like, I'm not trying to be, it's hard to, the best phrase to describe it is you just kind of like live in the moment and deal with the present. But that sounds almost like, well, you're just an irresponsible guy. But it's just not irresponsible. It's just, what would you like me to do about the unknown? There's not a whole lot I can do about the unknown. And it's okay to talk about the unknown. It's like, I am fearful and I have anxiety about the unknown. And I know it's a little bit weird, but let's talk about it. And that's fine. We can kind of talk through it. But then just remember, by the end of the conversation, you have to kind of let the unknown go and then be ready to just deal with whatever's put in front of you. And I think that is the biggest takeaway that I have from this Kyle Busch death thing. You just can't plan the unplanned. I put God at the center of what I do. I surrender my whole will and everything that I want to His so that He can show me my purpose. Regardless of what happens in front of me and whatever decision I make, if I'm at a crossroads, there's two directions I can go, and then I take one direction and I feel like maybe I made the wrong decision. It's never the wrong decision. You are on the path that you're supposed to be on because that is what God laid in front of you. Now, I understand not everybody believes in God or believes in anything religious, but I would like to think more people than not can agree that if you put it in the simplest terms of, you don't believe in any of that. Say you're on the other end of the spectrum, you're an atheist, whatever. Two roads are in front of you. You choose one. It feels like a mistake. Don't you think that there's going to be another road or another crossroads and another choice for you to make? So the only difference is you believe that that's just life and it just happens. Nobody puts it in front of you, and that's fine. The only thing I believe is that it's already predetermined, and that's the path that I'm going to take. No matter if I think it's the wrong path, or no matter if I change that path down the road, that path, there's something on that path that is going to help me on my next path. And I always believe that. I always believe that you weren't in the wrong situation. You were in the situation to learn something and then take that experience and go from there. I always talk about finding peace, finding perspective, and then you'll find true happiness. The perspective is, I was in that shitty situation. Now that I'm not in that shitty situation, and here's what I learned from it, and here's what I don't want to ever do again, or here's what I don't ever want to let happen to me. How can you be mad at a good learning experience? And in my belief system, I believe that what I learn in that experience, no matter how bad, is fuel for the next thing. And I think but having that perspective makes life a little bit easier to deal with. And then that way you always know that, look, the one person who has my purpose laid out for me wants me to find happiness. There's a verse somewhere, Jeremiah, I don't know, Genesis, Jeremiah, one of them, where it's like, I only wish true happiness for you, or something like that. If you look up verses about purpose, it's one of them. It's one of the big ones because it basically talks about, I have love and purpose for you. And I just think that you have to understand that dealing with the unknown is impossible. Dealing with the now is the only thing that you can do. And I think that was the biggest takeaway that I had, was I'd been thinking about it for a while, about how sometimes I'll spiral out of control, worried about whatever the next thing is and worried about planning the unknown, that it makes my current perspective get skewed. And then I'm no longer dealing with anything in the moment. I'm no longer being a dad. I'm no longer being a husband. I'm no longer being good at my job or working hard. Now I'm just sitting there worrying about what is all unplanned and unknown and trying to plan for that and have anxiety over that, instead of just being like, this is what I'm doing right now. We think our plan is to do X, Y, Z. This is what we're thinking. And if it works out, great. If not, we'll do something else. And that's, my wife and I, that's kind of our mantra. It's kind of like, this too shall pass. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but this too shall pass. And what are we supposed to do about the unknown? We'll deal with whatever happens when it happens, and it's all going to work out. And I think the whole thing about Kyle Busch dying and mortality, I'd been feeling and thinking that for a while, but it really put that into a much larger perspective in front of me. That I just need to continue to, it's not so much live in the moment. You can still be a responsible adult and live in the moment, but you're living, and it's not so much that you're just living in the moment. It's just, look, I don't have a long-term, exacto, planned out thing. We have a plan that we feel like works for us, talking about me and my wife, and we're going to try to just be good people, put our faith at the center of everything we do, let go, let God, and we know that it'll work out. It may not work out exactly like we think it was going to, but that's the problem with planning, because now I've planned it up in my head a certain way. If it doesn't work out exactly that way, you're almost always disappointed. However, if you're like, this is kind of what I want to do, and as long as you get to where you want to go, and as long as you're happy, it doesn't really matter. And I think thinking about him being a young person, 41 years old, is pretty young these days. I would imagine that Kyle Busch would probably say the same thing. And do I want to die at 41 and leave my wife and kid behind? No. But if that's my only choice, and I get to look at the legacy that I left, the name that was left, the name that I made, the way that I made on my own, and you show that to him, and you're like, look, man, you're going to die at 41. It is what it is, but here's what you can do if you just do your thing and live your life. Pretty sure he would be okay with that. So for that to be a thing, I got to think that me on a much smaller level, the legacy that I'll leave behind will hopefully be good husband, good dad, just a good dude. That's all you could want. I don't know what this looks like behind me. I don't know how this has looked on the camera, but this has been really therapeutic and nice. This place, I don't think they'll be upset if I show them their place. I just show them where I'm sitting. Check this shit out. That's got to look cool, right? This is what was in front of me. And that's what you saw. Listen, you only get one of these lives to live, so you might as well go out there and live your best life, because all you can do is make your own way, because in the end, a name is what you make it, and that's all that you have.
Purchase your tracks today.